Hi, it is Friday's Talking Reds. We're once again in the Liverpool Gin Distillery on Castle Street, a place which is fast becoming one of my favourite places to come actually for a quiet drink before a bit more madness on a night out. Quiet drink before a bit more madness on a night out on a Friday morning doesn't seem appealing, Neil, but after last night's result, anything goes, I suppose.
And the performance, I think the performance was just excellent. I mean, you know, Chris Wilder said what he said, and I think it sort of framed a conversation. And I'm pleased it has, really. It's about time. A lot of people started to genuinely talk about this Liverpool side as one of the great sides. And that's what I think he's set off. I think the nature of when the game fell, it being the second, it's come off the back of the Leicester game a couple of games before. There's no other games to go on about during the day. I think it just all felt right for Liverpool to put in the performance that they did, and then also to get the acclaim they deserve for it. And also coming up against a side like Sheffield United, a side who've proven themselves repeatedly this season to be very difficult to get anything against. You know, Liverpool don't just get anything against them. They win practically every battle. They win every phase of every bit of play. They win all over the pitch, apart from that mad chance at the end, which comes from nowhere and does feel like the only minute in the game Liverpool knocked off. Apart from that, the whole game just belongs to the Reds.
It's a conversation we've had sort of ongoing since Jurgen Klopp took over about opposition players and managers who've come out in the past and said about how good Liverpool are. But one of the things that sort of stood out to me in Chris Wilder's post-match comments was just the genuine level of respect that he had for Liverpool, and it's almost like there's now going to be sides who are trying to mirror everything that Liverpool do. They're going to be trying to play in Liverpool's image, trying to aspire to be what Liverpool become as a football club and a football team.
Yeah, I think the first thing that he admires is the basics, and I think that's Liverpool's execution of the basics, which is humility, which is desire, which is work rate. For me, it's, listen, we get the goal in the 4th minute, and that's been what we've needed across the last few weeks. It's been the goal that's been coming. So I'm really pleased it does come last night, because it just completely sets a tone, which is that Liverpool own the game. But they own the game because they started 0, and then they get the first goal. They started 0 number of passes completed. They end up with a Premier League record. They started 0 number of ball recoveries. They just win the ball back at every opportunity and start playing again. There was a long stretch of the first half where there wasn't even a free kick. You know, it was just ongoing football, ongoing football, ongoing football. And Liverpool were just in complete control of it all over the pitch. And I think that if you are Wilder, that's something which you're trying to instill into your team. And I think, you know, we often say, you know, I like the fact that there's less mind games these days in football, but I think there was a little bit in Wilder's post-match comments of him reminding his own team and his own set of supporters, we need to do our basics. Yeah, they've done their basics and they're the world champions. They've done their basics and they could be the best team in the world. We've got to learn from that as well, that we don't get to rest on our laurels at Sheffield United. And I think he was doing a little bit of that, because I think that's the message Liverpool is sending out to almost every team, every opponent in this division. All the things that you think you can do to be better than us around work rate, around effort, around organisation, we're already the best at that as well.
And in your post-match words, you said you didn't want to single out a particular player. I think everybody to a man was absolutely unreal in that game last night. But Jordan Henderson, for me, puts in probably his 10th, you know, stellar, world-class performance in a row, I think.
Yeah, he's currently playing at a fantastic level. I think he's been given the opportunity to, and I think that's massive. But I think he's also realised that this team right now needs him to be at his very best. It wouldn't surprise me if Henderson, when Fabinho comes back, either ends up with a couple of weeks out of the team in order to sort of almost rest his legs, recharge, and then come back in, or if he ends up being a little bit inconsistent in both selection and occasionally in performance. It's as though he's realised that with the midfield options beginning to ebb and flow around him, that he needs to stand up and be the dominant force on the pitch. And I think that that's, in many senses, that's captaincy, but it's the way he's the dominant force. He's not, you know, he's not throwing in thundering tackles and scoring 25 yards. I mean, he nearly gets one a couple of weeks ago, but it's not about that. It's that he devotes himself so completely to the team ethic. He's devoted to the idea that I'll give everything I've got and we will be the best version of ourselves. And I think that that's remarkable, you know, and that he embodies that in a way in which Souness embodies a certain era of Liverpool captaincy, the way in which Steven Gerrard used to be brilliant and save the day. The day doesn't need saving. And Jordan's there to say to everybody else, we give all of ourselves for one another. They're all devoted to the team success, the team ethic. And I think that's what Klopp's got out of them at the moment. I think it's led by Henderson, but you see it with each and every one of them. You see it with Salah, you see it with Mane. They're about what they can do for the team as much as they're hitting their own personal scoring charts.
Yeah, no matter what time the kick-off is. If there's a Liverpool game, we're going to cover it, and we had more reaction to that game last night with our post-match pint. Here's a little clip from that.
Klopp's developed this team to be intelligent enough to figure out the games as they go, and by that I mean to figure out how they should play them. Like as they're going, are the opposition going for it? Right, we need to really step it up. Are the opposition sort of taking it easy, then we can just relax a little bit and just do what we need to do to win it. It's such intelligence that you just don't fear anyone. And you know, I think Dan Kennett on Twitter's always talking about that January is the big time that Klopp teams have tended to drop points in the past. So the worst may yet be to come in that sense of dropping points. But you just look at it and think, I don't know where. You know, I'm just not sure where. And you know, don't get me wrong. I don't think we're going to go 37 wins, 1 draw. I mean, I'll love it if we do, but I don't think we're going to. But you just don't. You just can't. It feels like it's going to be a freak thing when it happens, rather than, oh well, you could tell that was coming, because you can't.
And it's just so much confidence in the team. They play with such confidence today, and today the confidence just took over almost. So they were so confident that they could just take the foot off the pedal and just sort of surf through and save some energy for Sunday.
Well, that's what I'm hoping, because I was watching that, like, I think, like before the game, I was thinking, he's gone strong, he'll rest a load on Sunday. But you're watching that game and you're thinking, they're resting now.
Yeah,
do you know
exactly.
what I mean? They're resting with the ball.
Yeah.
You know, they're not, you know, they're choosing when to press a little bit. You know, some of those boys probably came off there thinking, I'll just play again.
You know, Gini, look at Gini, second half. He's just running around like there's absolutely no effort in his extreme sprints. He looks so light and so strong and so full of energy, and it's coming towards 80 minutes and he's still just as light as a feather in a positive way, if you understand what I mean.
No, definitely.
He just looks so fit and energetic, and same with Trent. Look at his confidence with the ball. He's just like this 21-year-old owning the game. He's just taking his time, he's not rushing anything, he's looking for options, and then he just makes these incredible, precise crosses.
Yeah, as I say, plenty more reactions come throughout the day. Download our app if you want to get onto all of that, and also subscribe to Talk Player. It's the best time to do so when the Reds are playing so well, and the Reds are playing so well, Neil. But I've got absolutely no idea which version of them is going to turn up on Sunday. And I don't mean that in a performance sense, I mean in terms of team selection, because Klopp's comments last night have left me completely in the dark.
Yeah, I mean, they've done the same thing to Ancelotti, and I think it's really difficult from an Everton point of view to anticipate what Liverpool are going to do. If we don't know, and you know, we spend so much time thinking about Liverpool, then I think it becomes trickier and trickier from an Everton point of view. If it was me, if I was Carlo Ancelotti, I'd be saying to my lads, it doesn't matter who turns up, they're going to be really good players. And the other thing is, it's climbing the mountain of getting a result at Anfield for Everton. I think that that's absolutely huge, and I think it's something which, you know, no matter what happens, Everton have got to take it absolutely deadly seriously, and they will. And we've got to take Everton absolutely deadly seriously, and we will, no matter what side we pick. I think he will. I think he'll go a little bit stronger than people are anticipating at the moment. I don't quite see him. You know, listen, he might get them in and there's a couple of injuries or a couple of people who are carrying a little bit of something, but I think where he'll go relatively strong is it might mirror the 5-2 game where he goes pretty strong back four. I think I'd like to see him change the keeper. Yeah. There's a lot of people who don't, but I'd like to see him change the keeper because I think it's only fair. You brought this fella in, he's already contributed what he's contributed. I'd like to see Adrian get the game, but then I think he'll go. I think he goes as strong as possible back four. Maybe Henderson and then 5 changes. That's what would not surprise me at all, that he almost goes as strong as possible back four, Henderson, and has the idea that he's got it right the way through the side. He's got a spine there, he's got Van Dijk, Gomez, Henderson, a little triangle that can look after things, and then he can throw in Lallana. Milner's almost like a change no matter what happens because he wasn't meant to start that game. Then you've got Minamino, Origi, and it wouldn't surprise me if one of Elliott or Jones gets a little bit of time from the start. That's what I think he might do. That might be the direction he goes in, but he could do anything.
He could do absolutely anything, but exciting to see Minamino, isn't it? It's going to be, it's an interesting prospect, I think, because I think he's going to take some time to settle. You know, it's obviously a new country for him. He's still relatively young. He's only cost 7 million as well, which I think always gives you that little bit more leeway. But yeah. I think he's got all the tools there, and particularly, you know, with it being an Everton debut, you're gonna make the comparisons to the Virgil van Dijk one in the FA Cup the season he joined as well.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity. I mean, listen, let's just imagine a debut goal. It'd be absolutely fantastic. But I think more than that, we want to see, you know, if he gets on, and I think he will get on. He might not start, but I think he will get on. We want to see a performance, and I think we'll get one from him. I think, listen, I'm not worried about this first game from him. I think the one where it'll be 3, 4, 5. I always remember, you know, everyone forgets Andy Robertson the season when we sign him. I think he plays the first home game of the season, and he does pretty well. It's against Crystal Palace, and he does reasonably well. And then from there, we don't really see him feature for a period. And I think the manager knows there's an adrenaline that carries you through that first game, but then from there, it's going to take a little bit of time. So this one, I'm absolutely, you know, get him on, start him, throw him on 60. If he gets him on the bench, I'm going to be willing him to bring him on all the way through the game, get him on the pitch and let's see what he can do. But I do think from a Liverpool point of view, they've got a responsibility to protect where they are in the league. They've also got the recent experience of making a few changes against Everton and getting a result. they've got to, there's an opportunity here possibly with a kind draw, which we haven't had in the FA Cup for a while, but with a kind draw of pushing on if they can get through this challenge against the Blues.
And it'd be dead interesting to see what happens with Ryan Brewster as well. He's been sort of linked with a move away to Swansea. That seems like that's going to happen now, but after the Everton game, they've been holding him back for this reason, so it'd be interesting to see whether he features.
You'd expect him at the very least to be on the bench. I think he's been unlucky with injuries, and it's actually not been covered that well. People haven't been talking about the fact that he hasn't been available for selection as much as he would like, and it's a real shame for him. It's injury disrupted. I did a little list before, and you actually look at those lads who are injured. It is actually quite a substantial list. We're sort of all glossing over it, and we're buzzing off how good this team is. But from the back, you've got no Lovren, no Matip. They're both out at the moment. You've got no Fabinho, who could also fill in there, but also will be in our starting 11. There's currently now no Oxlade-Chamberlain. There's no Keita. There's no Shaqiri. And we've had on and off little issues around Brewster, and I think that's a substantial-ish injury list, certainly this time of year when you want to be able to make those changes. I think Brewster, I'd be surprised if Brewster starts, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the bench, and if he is on the bench, it really wouldn't surprise me if he gets on. I think the manager will want to do everything he can to find ways to either minimise the amount of time or completely remove Mane, Salah from the equation for this one, and I think that it wouldn't surprise me if those two just simply aren't even in the 18 and maybe Firmino's on the bench.
Yeah, well, we don't want injuries from this one, but we do also definitely want to beat Everton because we love skitting the Blues, don't we? And if you don't know about that, shop.theanfieldrock.com, there's a few t-shirts in there which can help you do that and get you in the mood for Sunday as well. Also, as I said before, download the Anfield app. But nice one to Neil, nice one to Liverpool Gin Distillery as always. Love the red.